Old school.
So I'm at the trauma care conference. It's going pretty well. I've been to 2 out of 3 workshops. I showed up late and missed most of the opening, but we got a little bit of that. It looks like it's going to rain, and that's bothering me because I do not have an umbrella with me and I have to ride the bus. So this is going to be a fun one. And I've got electronics on.
I think we'll get started. We know a few people might trickle in, but do we want to start with like a big breath?
Yeah.
Like how about we just do like feel your seat under you, feel your feet on the ground, give them a little tap, and do one of those really big breaths in. I love that feeling of like that big exhale where all that extra breath you didn't realize you were holding at the bottom, just like out. Feels good. Yeah. So Pastor Ford and Dan and I, we decided we were going to sit because we like to have like a good conversation, you know. Mm-hmm. But I want to make sure that our folks in the back feel okay about us sitting. You can see us. Okay. All right. Is that okay? We're good. All right. Because it's, you know, we like to, Dan brought this up last time, like we talk about, instead of power over, like picture like a really old school, like traditional, like teacher, like in a classroom, like it's very power over, like I'm big, you're small. And we don't believe in that at Care Coalition. We're all about power with, which also means we get to sit down. So added benefit.
Power with.
So we're, you know, we've been talking all day about, you know, trauma and toxic stress and how it impacts our bodies when hard things happen to us. And we're going to talk today about, or in this afternoon, this session, we're going to talk about what we do with that. That's not the end of anybody's story. That, you know, hardships and stresses and traumas, they're going to, you know, they've happened to us and things might happen in the future to us too, but we can really work to increase the resiliency that we have, to create this kind of buffer so that stress doesn't live in our bodies so much and affect our health and our life and our well-being. So that's our goal for the next 40 minutes together. But I'll just remind folks, I'm Julie Sespico. I'm a training coordinator with the Center for Family Safety and Healing, which is a center here in Columbus that deals with family violence, so helping anyone who's experiencing child maltreatment or domestic violence or teen dating abuse. That's kind of my world that I come from, but I'm also a Care Coalition training volunteer, so love to have these conversations about trauma and how we heal from trauma and how we build resiliency. So I'll let my friends introduce themselves.
So my name is Vince Ford. I serve at the Genesee Avenue Church of Christ. I've been there for about 4 years now. I have a mentoring program at Cassidy Elementary with 5th grade boys that I work with on a weekly basis. We do a lot of mindfulness activities. We do a number of things that just give them a sense of understanding that they have an opportunity to be great. I'm also one of the trainers for the Care Coalition. I volunteer and do that, which is why I'm here today. And so I'm just really excited to get to know more people in this community. That's what I'm really excited. So, and the church that I serve at is literally maybe not even 2 miles away from here. So.
Awesome. And Dan?
I'm Dan Lutz. I'm a social worker with Columbus Care Coalition. So I work primarily in the South Side. But I'll give my little spiel now instead of at the end, so just in case I'm not here. So Care Coalition, we are just a coalition of community partners. So without partners like this that volunteer their time and give their time, we couldn't do the work that we do. So I really thank these two for coming, definitely today, and just experiencing this with us. So Care Coalition, what we do is we hold monthly meetings the 4th Thursday of every month, 9:30 a.m. Again, with the coalition, I always say it's as much as time as you want to put in or as little time as you want to put in. That's a great thing about it. You know, it's free, doesn't cost anything, and we're always, you know, doing events in the community. We have different groups that we do, racial trauma, community outreach, the trauma training groups. And then networking, where kind of they get together and just network with each other. So there's groups that you can join, a lot of different things. So if you like stuff like that we're doing now, we do a lot of this stuff all year long, throughout the community. So our information, I gave it to you. You can always give the number on the back a call, or if you are really interested in joining afterwards, I can give you a card if you want to, kind of stuff there. You can do it either way. You can call the number and tell that you want to join, or you can see me afterwards. So that's my spiel.
Thanks, Dan.
And thank you all for coming here too. I really appreciate it, because without you guys, this wouldn't be going on. So this is when we start talking about some of these resiliency factors, this is what we're talking about. People that are actually showing up and doing the work.
Yeah. Giving up a Saturday, this is a big deal to have these conversations and talk about some heavy stuff. On a Saturday, that's a lot. And we just are, I don't know, I feel very energized by the people I've gotten to meet today, people I've gotten to chat with, and I just feel like we're this group of folks who wants to help our community heal and work on our own selves too. And that always is inspiring to be part of. So when we are thinking about that, building that resilience, we kind of break it down. Well, I like to start actually with thinking about what resiliency is not. So what a backwards way to give a definition, but I'd like to talk first about what we don't mean by resiliency before we talk about what we do mean. So what are your reactions if I say something like, you're so resilient, nothing keeps you down for long, you've got this, just keep your chin up. Or if I say, just come on, just pick yourself up, you got this, let's just keep it going, just keep moving. What does that feel like for you when I say that?
Some encouragement.
It could feel encouraging. It was just, probably how I mean it, right?
It feels to me like you don't care about what's going on with me and you want me to do for you.
Yeah. It's making me really uncomfortable that you're sitting here sad or upset, right? So
Right.
I want you to pick it up so I don't have to feel weird and awkward and sad around you, right? So sometimes it can be meant to be encouraging. We talk a lot about intention versus the impact it has. So maybe my intention, and maybe you and I, if we really knew each other and had a lot of trust in each other, maybe you would understand my intention if I said to you hey, you've got this. I believe in you. That might feel encouraging to you, but maybe you're going to interpret that as what, you can't handle my pain, you can't handle my hurt, you can't handle my stuff. And so we really consider what is the impact of those kind of words, even if we mean them really well. And what I often think of when we say resiliency, I hear some of the ways that resiliency is almost kind of weaponized. If you're so resilient, then I don't really have to pay attention to what's wrong. I don't really have to pay attention to what's causing you pain. And I don't have any responsibility to help you with that pain because you're so resilient, Dan, you've got this. And that kind of absolves me of responsibility to support and to see what's going on with you. And it also, I think, makes people kind of feel like they have to have this mask up. Okay, if I have to be strong, I guess I'll just be strong. And nobody wants to see me be vulnerable or be weak or be sad or be hurting. So I guess I'll just put that smile on and just keep on keeping on. And maybe that works for a while, but what happens if we keep doing that over time? It's going to affect our health, I think. If it lives in our body somewhere. If we're not expressing it to each other, if we're not saying, hey, I'm hurting, or I need to be soft and vulnerable and weak right now, and I need that to be okay with you as my friend or, parent or coworker, whoever it is, then I think it just lives in our body in a different way and comes out in bad health effects, right?
And you're not being true to yourself.
No, you're not.
You're cheating yourself.
Yeah, of that full range of experience of honoring where you are and that it's okay. Someone said it earlier, it's okay to not be okay. And what I really think when sometimes I hear people talk about resiliency as just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just keep on keeping on, and that sounds great, but if I could, I would. So let's look at what's going on under the surface there that maybe I could actually be helpful or be supportive or just sit with you in your pain, like you said, help deal with it instead of ignoring it or I can't deal with that. So we don't mean any of those things when we say resiliency. But when we look at like the brain science, all that stuff we've been talking about earlier today, what we think of as resiliency is, loss and grief and hardships, those have happened to us. And maybe life can be full of those things, right? We can't wave a magic wand and stop those things from having had happen, or that might happen in the future. But we can build up our buffer so that those hardships don't become as toxic in our bodies. That we can help build this buffer for our own selves and each other. That those stressors don't live in our bodies, but actually we can kind of process them and heal and grow from them, as opposed to where they get stuck when we don't deal. And that comes out as all those health things. So I really want to think about, how do we build that resiliency? We have some ideas. We have broken out kind of what that roadmap looks like, but then let's think about how do we kind of do each one of these things. So I'll introduce the 5 ways that we think of as building resiliency, and then we'll break each one of them down. But just to give you kind of a preview of where we're going, the 5 resiliency factors that we really see in a lot of research and a lot of kind of lived experiences too, the number one most important thing to help people deal and heal from trauma, the most important thing that we all need, that little kids need, that 90-year-old people need, everyone in between needs. Anyone have a guess what the number one most important resilience building factor is? Support. It's safe, healthy relationships with other people who care and who, we say unconditional love. The research will call it unconditional positive regard. No, it's unconditional love, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. And, it's that non-judgmental support, those people who will sit with you in hardship and just love you where you are. And even in professional ways, like those people who've got your back, even if they're your coworker or your, supervisor or your nurse, who's walked alongside you. So maybe they don't say I love you, but they're there in that unconditional support way. So that's the number one most important thing. When we think about our brains, when we've experienced a lot of stress and trauma, my dog's going crazy right now with the thunder. Woo, poor Lola. Her lid is flipped. She's feeling that fear response probably right now. When we have that experience of just tons of trauma in our own lives, in our childhoods, in our worlds, we have this lack of felt safety. We learn to be vigilant, to be hyper vigilant. Our fear center is looking out for threat all the time, even when we're sitting in this room, which should be safe, right? We should feel safe here. Well, I can't convince you that this is a safe place. Your brain can, your logical brain can go, okay, I'm technically safe right now. I'm indoors from the storm. I'm sitting, I'm comfortable, I'm fed. I'm technically safe, but that doesn't mean that you feel safe in your body. Your brain might think it's safe, but your body might not. So we're gonna just keep it moving. I have a hard time concentrating. We're cool?
So we want to inform everybody, because of the storm, we're gonna end at 3:30. So we got about 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, and I want to go back to the sanctuary. Right. And then we'll go back to the sanctuary. So we're gonna end in 10 minutes. So I want to talk faster, and I want to let my friends talk too. So really just that number one thing is that we need places, or we need people, so that our brains can relax sometimes. So that hypervigilance and that barking guard dog that's looking out for our safety can relax. And when we can rest and feel that sense of safety, whether it's we have one person we can do that with or 50, that felt safety with other people is where our thinking brains can really be online, be engaged. We can learn, we can grow, we can change our habits, make new pathways, set goals, all that good stuff that we want for ourselves and our young people and our friends and family. All that has to happen when we have our sense of regulation and safety. So that's why the number one most important resilience factor is how many safe people can we get access to? Yeah. And then how do we be that safe person for others? That's a really big deal. The next one is agency. Vince, you want to speak at all about agency?
Yeah.
Voice and choice.
So voice and choice. So this idea that you not only have the ability to speak up for yourself, but that your voice is heard in various settings, right? I heard a quote by a dear friend of mine, and he said that when people are a part of an inequitable system that produces inequitable outcomes, then we become a part of the problem, right? And so that idea of inequity says that we're going to take your power away, take your voice away, right? And so the goal isn't to necessarily give a voice to the voiceless, because you've heard that, Dr. King and all that, right? So the goal is to give the voiceless a voice on behalf of themselves, right? So that they can speak up for themselves, so that we don't always as a community have to rely on other people to speak for us. That I can speak on behalf of my own issue because I have the agency to do so.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that, Pastor Ford. I think of it too as like being the narrator of our own stories, and I think like to be able to speak for what I need, speak up for the inequities that maybe I'm experiencing, or my neighborhood, my community, my friends are experiencing, and that I have that sense of being heard. And we talked too about, I think, like making meaning of our own stories. I think that that's a part of that sense of agency too, and that those are two. I think that and being with those healthy, safe others, like those are the two kind of key things that that we can keep building and working on for ourselves and each other. And then the third one is self-esteem. Dan, would you want to speak at all to self-esteem? That sense of creativity, skills. I know.
Sense of self.
I'm putting him on the spot.
No, that's all right. So it's really that, the self-esteem, right? The ability to make change, to have an impact, right? To really feel that way, and how do we get self-esteem? It's not really, it's all these other factors that are involved too. It's not just, I'm born with self-esteem, right? I mean, it's having the safe, healthy relationships. It's having the, agencies around us, the external supports, people that are building us up, and not, kind of breaking us down.
Yeah.
So kind of really looking at that, I taking a look at my own life, I could see that with the military, right? Like you go in, they break you down to build you the way they want to build you. So it is very easily to see how that can be done. So really having that self-esteem, and again that just the feeling that you do matter, right? And that you do have a voice in your community and things like that.
I love that. And especially like in that military setting, or in a setting where you are like one of many, I think that we can get that self-esteem kind of stripped away a little bit, that sense of self-identity. And so what are the big and small ways that we can honor that sense of like, I'm a unique person and I matter and I have my own likes and dislikes and preferences and creativity and skills that are like unique to me. So how do we honor those in ourselves and then honor that in others? Like I love those viral videos you'll see of like teachers who have like individual unique handshakes with each student in their class. Just a small way, I mean, that's a big way. I have the worst memory in the world. I don't know how those teachers do that. But like a little way of being like, hey, I see you. Good morning, Dante. Is that right? Yeah. I'm also kind of blind. Yeah, good morning, Dante. Good to see you today. Those little ways that we honor, like, I see you as a unique person. You matter. And then the fourth resilience factor, if you're following along, is affiliation. So that sense of like, we're all here working toward a bigger goal. We all are part of something bigger than ourselves. I see this in little ways, like my mom during the pandemic, she like started a little hiking club that was just because she was missing that sense of connectedness to people with similar interests and similar goals, and they'd bring their little litter pickup sticks and they'd go on these hikes and pick up litter. Like it was this important thing for her to feel that sense of connectedness, And then for my dad during the pandemic, it was his faith community, his Bible study. He's still meeting on Zoom with his Bible study at 6 a.m. on Thursday mornings. I'm like, why 6? Like, you're all retired. Why are you meeting at 6 a.m.? But okay. But that to him one was where he got that sense of connectedness and affiliation, that support for each other. Vince, I know you were speaking a little on that sense of affiliation and what that meant to you.
Affiliation is extremely important. And affiliation, as it pertains to our resiliency factors, is as human beings, we'll find affiliation somewhere.
Yes.
Right? So that's one of the things we deal with our youth, is that they're gonna find an affiliation.
Yep.
Right? So whether that's, a sports team or a group of kids, if we're not careful, then it can turn into them being a part of some sort of violent group, right? They're gonna find that place where they belong and they can identify with, right? And so we all have affiliations, right? Places we work, places we're connected to, whatever religious belief we ascribe to, right? Those are affiliations, and those are important when it comes to resilience, especially when you consider the context of the Black church, because the theology of the Black church is built off this idea of hope, right? So everything is about hope, right? When you look at the Civil Rights Movement and the affiliations with that, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. King holding meetings inside of churches, right? A lot of our movement as it pertains to becoming a better society, if you will, if you even want to say it was better, right? Things have gotten better. A lot of that, and we were just talking about that, they were birthed out of these types of settings. And so when it comes to affiliation, that's something that we constantly have to reflect on. What are my affiliations, right? How are they making me more or less resilient? Right? Do they need to change? So there's very layered questions as it pertains to affiliation that we have to answer for ourselves and for our community. Right?
Are we creating those spaces where they are safe? Or I think about something we hear a lot from people who've experienced substance abuse, and they're like, yeah, I want to walk away from this. I don't want this to be my life, but that's my whole world. All my friends, all my family, that's my whole life. And okay, yeah, I want to walk away from that, but what do I have to replace those affiliations with? Who are now my safe support people who I can go to when those were all my people who are affiliated with those substance use, So really, I just love that, people are going to find affiliation and connection. They're going to find their safe, healthy others, even if they're not safe and healthy. So what can I do for my own self to be that safe, healthy other, to create those spaces of affiliation? And then the last and one that you kind of led us right into is we call it external supports, but what gives you that sense of hope? What gives you that sense of purpose and drive? What gets you out of bed in the morning? For a lot of people, this is where spirituality lies. If you think about people who've experienced trauma and hardships, I think that a lot of folks who've really healed from those things tend to be really spiritual people, very spiritual, right? And I work with a lot of survivors of domestic violence who will say, well, it's not so much a spirituality for me, but it's maybe a sense of connectedness to humanity, or a sense of being a part of this big old world around me, and that gives me a sense of drive to do for others, or be connected to others. So even if it's not a sense of formal spirituality, there still can be this sense of drive or purpose. Some people it's family. Other people, family is not an external support. So where can I seek that elsewhere in a way that is going to give me that sense of hope for tomorrow? Like I said, for my mom, it's nature. That gives her that sense of connectedness. So are you gonna?
I've lost track of where we are. Are you telling us at number 4?
That was number 5. I'm sorry. So 5 is external supports.
External.
External support.
External support.
Yes.
Affiliation was 4.
Right.
External supports is it kind of sounds pretty similar, but external supports is whether it's people, spirituality, faith, family, pets, what gives you that sense of purpose? What gives you that sense of hope? Whereas affiliation is more about what makes me feel like I belong. So really similar, and some of the same things might cross over for us, and that's okay. We're not a big slice of pie where we can cut all these pieces apart. But to run through them again, it's healthy, safe others. Number 2 is agency. Number 3 is self-esteem. Number 4 is affiliation, so that belonging. And 5 is external supports, that sense of hope and purpose. So thinking for ourselves, we're wrapping up now, but wrapping up early as instructed. But just really looking first at ourselves. How do I build and increase my own resiliency with these five factors, this little roadmap? And then how do I support others' resiliency? And a lot of that starts with getting myself together, making sure I can show up for my friends and family and kids and coworkers and my community as a regulated person that can be regulated and grounded so that others, like I can pour out my empathy and support for others. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Vince, Dan, would you guys have any parting words before we go back to the sanctuary?
Vince, do you have anything?
No, I mean, I said no, and then I have something.
Such a pastor.
But I will say this, is that the promotion of a healthy community begins with the ability to implement these 5 resilience factors in the spaces that you belong. Figure out how to embed those in your life. Figure out how to embed those in your homes. Right? Imagine if a relationship had those things that were activated at a high level, right? A sense of support, right? Right? Voice and choice. A lot of times things break down because we don't have these things.
I love that. That's our charge for all of us today, including ourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for the